If you look at the origin of intellectual property, we will find that intellectual property can be attributed to human creativity itself. Human creativity, as we know from certain ancient cultures, there was no concept of creativity that existed in ancient cultures. It just the fact that they did not respect it or identify it as a concept is an important thing for us to note. In fact, creativity was attributed only to divine origin. In fact, at one point in the ancient cultures, art was regarded as a discovery that you make and not something which you create on your own. So, art was a discovery, and discovery is not something that was created. So, the concept that existed in ancient cultures was the fact that human beings did not create anything on their own, rather, they discovered or converted one form of thing to another. So, art was regarded as a form of imitation. And imitation, as we already saw, came through the process of discovery. Now, this philosophy regarded that God was the creator and all the other things were the created things. So, you had the created things and you had a creator. Now, human creativity did not seem to fit into this very well because creativity was understood as a form of imitation. We find this tangle even in modern intellectual property law, where, especially when it comes to patent law, there is a conundrum between discovery and invention. Discoveries are not regarded as inventions because discoveries don't lead to inventing or coming up with something new. Something existed and you merely reveal it. So, this issue that existed between the people in the ancient cultures, you see that it also, the same debate also recurs in the modern times. So, when we look at creativity, we can look at two broad classes of thinking. One, we had religion, which initially told us creativity was the province of God. And then we had the Renaissance, where the individual was given more importance. So we came to a individual centric model where we moved forward and said that it's not just creation that is of divine origin that matters. Even the creations by the individual itself could be a thing to be considered. The human centric intellectual movement had imagination at its center. It was regarded that a genius is a person who was imaginative and who had a vibrant imagination, whereas talent was something which was below the level of a genius. So you could have talent to do ordinary tasks, but to do the extraordinary, you had to be a genius. Again, this is something which we will find in modern intellectual property debates. An inventor is somebody who has the spark of a genius, whereas a skilled person or a person skilled in the art is just a talented person. So, how does patent law decide, or how does patent law determine that there is a difference between normal talent and that of a genius? They merely look at the fact whether a skilled person, who is an ordinary person in that field, could have come up with the invention. If the skilled person could not have come up with the invention, then patent law regards that as a work of invention, or rather, the patent law regards that there is an inventive step which is similar to the contribution of a genius. So, human creativity revolved around human imagination, and human imagination was something that was attributed to the work of a genius. So, creativity came to be equated with domain changing contributions. So, you could look at some seminal contribution that led to creation of a domain or changing the knowledge in that domain. There were various theories on creativity. You had psychology, theories in psychology, and theories in cognitive science as well. Now, imagination, it was believed that imagination led to new ideas, and the new ideas came up because of operating in predictable ways. And these predictable ways mapped or had relevance to existing concepts. So, in a way, imagination had to do something with what was already there. In fact, we had statements from scientists who have said that if I could look far, it is because I stood on the shoulders of giants. Now, this is a quote that is attributed to Isaac Newton. So, all of knowledge or all of creativity can be regarded as building on existing knowledge. So, when you look at creativity from the perspective of intellectual property rights are creative endeavors, or rather the rights that come out of creative endeavors. And if you look at human creativity itself, human creativity can be attributed to how we build on existing knowledge. So just how creativity comprises of building on existing knowledge, so also intellectual property is something which is built on what is already known. Now creativity also has a bearing on problem solving. Now creativity is something that overlaps with what we call intelligence, and that's why where we get the term intellectual from. So the mental process, when it comes up with an original idea, and the original idea results in an unknown solution to an existing unsolved problem, we say that it results in creativity in solving a problem. Now, creativity in solving a problem is again what we call creativity as problem solving, has its relevance to intellectual property rights. Because when it comes to an invention, one of the ways in which we attribute a invention as unique is by looking at whether it solved a pre-existing problem or an unsolved problem. So this is how creativity came to be attributed to originality, or the thing being original, or the thing being novel. Now, originality is a requirement under the copyright regime. The copyright regime requires copyrighted works to be original, and novel or novelty is something that is relevant to the patent regime. So patent law requires inventions to be novel, and copyright requires works to be original. Copyright and patent are two branches of law under intellectual property rights. So an innovative solution could either result in an innovation or it could result in an invention. Innovation is a very broad term. Intellectual property is more concerned about invention because patents could protect inventions. We do not say that all innovations can be protected. We only say that inventions can be protected by way of patents. And invention is the subject matter of patent law. So when we look at the problem solution approach or when we look at creativity as a process of problem solving, you have a problem for which we find a solution, and if the solution is creative, then we call that as innovation. There is an innovation when there is a problem that is solved using a creative process. This entire process is called a process of innovation.